Welcome. As we continue to explore some real-world uses for Vue, up next, I want to do a very common form thing, which is formatted inputs. Check this out. So this would be a typical phone number formatting for a US number. So as I start to type, we'll say 123. Notice how our application is formatting the number for us. The only thing that I'm doing, actually inputting just the digits. And then it nicely formats it for the user. Now this form is actually quite cool. If I started to type letters, I'm trying to type some letters right now. No, it's hard to see, but it's not working. Only digits can be typed in. Furthermore, if I continue to try to type more digits, nope, it doesn't work. It locks us into this very particular format. Now, another very cool thing about this form and the way that we're going to do it is that we can actually create the template right from our actual component. So if I wanted to change this template to be, say, 3 digits, and then a period, and then 3 more digits, and then 4 digits, another common way to show a US number, when I hit refresh, now we have the new format working for us right away. How awesome is that? So it's super dynamic. It's a super cool approach using regular expressions. So stick around. We've got a ton of cool stuff to cover in this lesson. And if you stick with it, I promise you, you're going to learn some really cool tricks that you can use with Vue, JavaScript, and regular expressions. Stick around. All right, so let's jump right to it. So I'm going to create a new component, and let's go ahead and call it just telephone.view. We will end up using this as a reusable component, but just for the very primary example, let's go ahead and just do a telephone example. So let's add our template tag as well as the script tag. All right, so in here, what do we need to do in terms of template? Well, again, we are using Tailwind, so let's go ahead and make a nice big form that we can work with. So I'll add a class here just to add some additional margin. So let's add some margin top of 6, and then inside this div, we'll have our actual input field. So for input field, it's going to be a text field, and for placeholder, let's go ahead and have the initial format that we're going to be working with. So let's just say that we have 3 digits inside parentheses, followed by a space, then 3 more digits, and then a dash, and then 4 digits. Just a typical phone number makeup. Finally, let's add some classes here. These are all going to be just based around that we want this to look nice and large. So let's start with a width of 56, and let's give it a text of 2XL. Nice and big font. Let's give it a BG gray of 300. Let's give it padding 3 all the way around. Nice big rounded corners with rounded LG. And then on focus, let's go ahead and remove the outline. So we'll say focus : outline none. All right. So with that being said, let me go ahead and reformat this. And finally, let's go ahead and add our first data property. And this is going to be the V model for this actual input field. So we'll have a data. It's going to be a function. It will return an object. And inside of this object, we're going to have number. And initially, that'll be an empty string. So let's go ahead and add that V model now. So V model for number. Just set up here, nothing crazy. So let me go ahead and also add a new view so we can actually preview this. And we'll just call it forms.view. We'll have our template tag as well as the script tag. And in here, we know we need that new component we just created. So let's go ahead and import telephone from, we'll have to go up one directory into components and then grab telephone.view. All right, so then in our list of components, let's go ahead and use telephone. Now for template, we'll simply do a div, and inside of here, we'll have our actual telephone component. Let's add this to our router as a new route here. We'll say, all right, so this is going to be /forms. For name, we'll say form as well, and the component is going to be forms component, which we don't have yet. So let's go ahead and add that in. And we'll say that is called forms, and we'll import that from forms. All right, fair enough. Visit the browser, and there we go. All set up stuff that we already knew. Now, when we start to type into this, of course, we want to go ahead and restrict all of this. Right now, everything is acceptable. So we'll take it one step at a time. The first thing we need to do is go ahead and limit what is actually being put in, right? If this is a telephone number, then we only want digits. So what we need to do is go ahead and watch this number property that we added, and whenever any other character other than 0 through 9 is inputted, we're going to go ahead and delete it. We're going to ignore that altogether. So to do that, let's add a watch property for number. So whenever number gets updated, this function here will actually be called. And for this, let's go ahead and set this.number equal to something else. So we're going to set this.number to this.number.replace. All right, so inside of here, we're going to need a regular expression. So we know the following. We know we want everything from 0 to 9. However, we need to negate this because we want to replace everything that is not 0 through 9 with something else. So to negate, we can use this symbol that is going to be Shift and 6 in most keyboards, and we're going to do that globally. Now we're going to replace that with just an empty string. So any character that is not 0 through 9, replace it with an empty character. Let's check that out in the browser. So if we type ABC, I'm typing. I can't type anything in there, but as soon as I type numbers, it works. Tried to type any letters at all except numbers or including spaces, dashes, nothing will work but 0 through 9. All right, so that is step 1. So this is a phone number, so of course we want to restrict that. So to keep going, we need to do another replace. So now that we have just the digits, now we need to constrain this to the format that we are looking for. And just to refresh our memory, this is the format that we are looking for. So let's go ahead and do another replace call, and we can tag that right after that and just say replace. And then of course we're going to need a new regular expression to put here, and then we're going to need this replace section. What are we going to replace it with? So to start, let's do it step by step. I'm actually going to copy this, and we're going to convert this one thing at a time. So I'll paste this into replace, but of course this is not real regular expression. We need to turn this into an actual regular expression. So the first thing that I see here is 3 distinct groups. We have one group of 3, another group of 3, followed by a group of 4. So in regular expression, we're going to need to wrap this in parentheses. So let's go ahead and grab this and wrap it in parentheses. Now this one is already wrapped in parentheses, so we are good to go. Now let's go ahead and eliminate everything that is extra. So we're going to have 3 digits followed by 3 digits followed by 4 digits, and we're going to have 3 capturing groups. That's what these parentheses are. So we're going to be able to reference these capture groups in our replacement, which is pretty cool. The other thing is we need this to start with this 3 digits. We want the very first character to be the very first thing matched. So to do that, we use the same character again. Again, this is Shift 6. Okay, so then how do we grab 3 digits in a row? We can escape a digit, and then in curly brackets, we can specify how many. So we'll say 3. And then we'll do the same exact thing on this one. So we'll say, all right, so give me 3 digits. It's basically what that means. And then we're going to go ahead and do the same thing again, but this time, of course, we're looking at 4 digits. So this is going to be the regular expression that we're going to be putting everything together in. Remember, these are going to be digits only because we've already ran this through a replacement that only gives us digits. So we'll go ahead and add the G flag to that. And then what are we going to replace this with? Now you may not know this, but you can actually pass in a string right afterwards. So we can say the following. We know it's going to be a parentheses followed by space, and then we're going to have 3 digits and then a number. So to grab the first capture group, we're going to say $1. Then to grab the second capture group, we're going to say $2. And then we're going to have a dash, and then we're going to say $3. All right, let's see this in action. Let's refresh, and I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0, and there we go. Now everything got matched. So you saw how at the end of us finishing typing, everything bumped into place. So nothing is happening there, and as soon as we hit that last character, it gets perfectly formatted. So now this is one way of doing it. However, if you wanted to kind of do it as you are typing, what you can do is make the second and third group optional. Even the first group can be made optional. So we can add a question mark right after each of these groups. And now, when we hit refresh, I'll type in 1. Notice how we already kind of have the formatting here. 2, 3, and as soon as one group is matched, it gets bumped into place. So we'll say 1, 2, 3 again. Notice how that got bumped in front of our dash, and then we'll say 1, 2, 3, 4. So just like that, this is working. So this is a basic example of how to get this input field to format. Again, if you want it to only match at the very end, in that case, you can go ahead and not have these question marks. Now, I do like to give the user a little bit of feedback, almost like, yes, those first 3 digits are good to go. Give me the next 3. Yep, those are good. And then give me the final 4, and we are good to go. So that's a good way of doing it. Again, it's a preference thing. You can do it however you'd like. So the next thing I want to fix is the following. So yes, we have the right number, but we can keep typing. And we can add as many numbers as we want after this. But truthfully, that's probably not what you want. What you really want is to limit the number of digits that you are given to the number of things that you actually have. So to do that, we're going to have to do a little bit of refactoring. So let's start with this right here. This is obviously going to be customizable. So to make this customizable, we need to pass that in as a prop. So let's add our props right here. We'll say props. It's going to be an array. And then the first prop is going to be template. So now in our form, in our telephone, we can say, all right, the template is going to be equal to, and then we can copy this template right here. Copy, paste it right into there. And now we can bind placeholder into template. That way, it actually uses the prop instead of being hard-coded in. And this is how we're going to start to replace one at a time. So now that we have our template, we know the length of our template. So we can say, okay, well, at the very end, if there's anything else, we could use sub-str, and we can say, okay, I only want you to give me from character in position 0 to this dot template dot length. So I don't want you to be any longer than our actual template, which would make sense. And this will do the trick for us. Let me hit refresh. I'll say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0. And then I can't type anymore. That's it. Now I am locked in. But now if we changed our template, we went ahead and removed that space. It's going to act a little funky, but you notice that the placeholder did get updated. But now it won't let me add anything else. Now the reason for this is, of course, because our placeholder actually is not dynamic just yet. We actually hard-coded in this regular expression. But what I really want to do is go ahead and make this dynamic so we can change the formatting in our template and we can create a dynamic regular expression. So it's going to take a little bit of work, but if you stick with it, I promise you, it's going to be a cool learning experience in regular expressions. So let's go ahead and get started with that section of it. So when my component is mounted, we're going to have to do some extra work here to set everything up. Because remember, our template is coming from the outside world. So as soon as we are mounted, we are ready to go ahead and tackle and digest this template and make it work with our regular expressions that we have down here. Again, these are hard-coded right now, but they're going to be dynamic. We're going to generate them automatically on the fly when the component is mounted. So to do that, let's do the following. The first thing we're going to need is we're going to need a format. If you notice down here, we'll set that to an empty string, but if you notice down here, we have a regular expression, but we also have a format. So we need to grab a way to generate this format right here using our placeholder, which is this, our template. To do that, let's do the following. So we're going to grab this .format, which is this new data property that I added up here, and this will be equal to this .template. Remember, this .template is this template right here being passed in as a prop. So this .template .replace will use the same exact notation. And another way that you can use replace is that you can actually pass back a callback function, which is pretty cool. So as a first argument, we're still going to need our regular expression. And what we're going to be looking for is capital X's, right? As we know, our template here is based around all of these capital X's. So we're going to find any X's, one or more. So we do that with a plus sign, and we'll say, go ahead and do that globally. And then we can go ahead and do shorthand syntax. So whenever you find any X's, I want you to replace them with something. And essentially, I want you to replace them with $1 for the first one that it finds, $2 for the second one that it finds, and $3 for the third one that it will find. So let's go ahead and set an X right here. We'll say let X equals 1. That way we know that the first one will match the first one, right? So all we need to do is give it a $sign plus whatever the value of x is. But then, of course, at the end of this, we need to go ahead and increment x. That way the next time is $2. So let's take it one step at a time. To do that, we can say the following. Okay, give me a $sign, and then go ahead and give me x, and then you could do plus plus to increment. So with that, this should be working. Let's go ahead and check it out in the browser. I'll hit refresh. Let me open up my DevTools. We'll go into App, Forms, Telephone. And if we look down here at Format, check that out. So we do have the correct format. Again, the reason for this is just that we are counting with x. If I take off the plus plus, check out what happens now. If I look at Telephone, we look at Format, we get $1, $1, $1. That's not what we want. We want 3 separate capture groups. So we'll say x plus plus. We'll hit refresh one more time. And sure enough, we get 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so now we don't need this anymore to be hard-coded. We can simply say this.format. Okay, so now comes kind of the grueling section. It's this right here. This regular expression, making this dynamic is a little bit tricky. I'll explain my way through it, but it's going to take a combination of knowing how many x's they are, because if you remember right here, this 3 comes from the fact that there are 3 x's right here. Then the following one, this one right here, of course, pertains to these 3 x's in a row. And finally, this fourth one with the number 4 pertains to these 4 x's in a row. So we're going to use a combination of replacing and matching to make this work. So let's go ahead and add a new data property here, which I will call regex. And regex, of course, will be our actual regular expression. So let's take our template. We always need to start with our template. And let's go ahead and try to match some stuff with our template. So what are we looking for with the template? Well, we're looking for this. We're looking for any number of x's, 1 or more. So we'll grab that regular expression and bring that. So when you find one of those, I want you to invoke the following function. Now for each, we'll receive the character, meaning the actual character that we're at right now, plus the key. Both are important. We're going to need both. The first thing I want to do is show you what each of these is actually passing back to me. So let's do a console.log for char. And let's check that out in the browser. I'll open up the console, hit refresh, and notice that we get 2 versions of XXX and then 1 version of 4 x's in a row, which makes sense. Okay, so how about this? If we do char.length, I bet you now we'll get 3s and 4s. So we have the necessary numbers, and that is step 1. Char.length is going to give us the actual length that we need. But furthermore than that, we're going to need a key. I'll go ahead and comment this line out just to keep that there. And let's do console.log and give me the key. I want to show you what the key actually is. We get 0, 1, and 2. This is a 0-based index. So I'll go ahead and comment this out. So this is the data that we have to work with. We are ready to build up our actual regular expression. So we'll say the following, this.regex, and then instead of just equals, let's do plus equals. That way we incrementally add each one of these sections. So we can say the following. We know we're going to need a capture group, right? Remember, we are simply building up this section right here. So we know we're going to need a capture group followed by a digit. So this right here. And then we're going to need a set of curly brackets. And inside of this, we need this char.length. So to do that, let's go ahead and split this up into 2 separate strings. And then in the middle, we'll do char.length. All right, so let me console this.regex so that we see what we built up. And there we go. So we see it incrementally adds a little bit at a time. I will actually copy this and let me put it kind of side by side here as best as I can to show you how close we are to actually creating this on the fly. So the first thing we see here, of course, is we are missing the escape. So we need to actually double escape that. Let's try that again. And here is our new one. I'll copy it. Let's paste it right here again. Okay, so much closer. So it looks like we're missing the question mark. So let's go ahead and add a question mark right here. Hit refresh. There we go. I'll copy this new generated regular expression, paste that in, and there we go. Character for character, it is exactly the same, with the exception of this. And we definitely need that because remember, this is what lets regular expression know that this is the beginning of the string. So to do that, instead of setting this as an empty string, let's go ahead and set it to this. And then whenever this runs, because we're using the plus equals, this will get added at the very beginning. So let's go ahead and hit save on that. And sure enough, now when we pull up our final one, I'll pull it up right here and paste, exactly the same. Great. So now this means that we can replace, I'll copy this.regex. That means that we can replace this with this.regex. But you can't just put a regular expression as a string. You actually need to wrap it in a special JavaScript class that is actually provided for us. And it looks something like this. We'll say create a new regular expression. And as a first argument, we're going to pass this.regex. And then as a second argument, we can pass in any additional options, such as this global option. So we'll go ahead and add G in single quotes plus this format. And let's go ahead and give that a shot. I'll hit refresh. And let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0. And we are working. But the biggest difference now is that this is dynamic. Check this out. I'm going to change my template to something else. What if I wanted it to be something like C dash and then maybe 4 digits? Imagine that instead of this being a telephone, ignore that this is a telephone. This is going to be maybe a special student ID or something like that. I'll go ahead and hit refresh on our browser. And now we're going to say 1, 2, 3, 4. And check that out. That also got formatted, even though we didn't write a regular expression. All right, let's try another one. Let's say we changed our phone number and now it's going to be 3 digits dot 3 more digits dot 4 digits. How about that? Would that work? I'll hit refresh. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. And there we go. You see how that gets formatted. This is a very cool approach for creating dynamic regular expressions that can be reused in nice Vue components. So I hope you've enjoyed this lesson. I know this was deep in terms of regular expressions, and regular expressions are extremely, extremely powerful. If you can dominate regular expressions, I promise you anything that you need to manipulate in terms of string is possible. Regular expressions can do just about anything you could ever imagine. So with that, don't forget to subscribe and share all of the Coders Tape videos. That way we continue to grow the channel and continue to spread awesome web development knowledge. Thanks for watching.